Hey guys, so today I have swatches of the Mooncat Lost in a Folktale collection. There are 6 polishes here all together. These are available right now, so I will link the Mooncat website down below and I will get into the swatches. So the first polish is called Pixiestick, and this is described as a white polish filled with green shimmer and super micro hollow glitter. This is a very shifty shimmer, so it looks very sheer from some angles, and then the shimmer actually looks like pretty decently opaque from other angles. It is very shimmery though, and it built up decently on the second coat, but still pretty sheer from some angles, so I went ahead and added a third. This is definitely sheer enough that I think it would also make a good topper, and like over a dark color, it would make that shimmer stand out really, really well. The third coat built up pretty well. It's one of those polishes, again, because of that shimmer and the shiftiness in it, that you could see my nail line from some angles. It was totally opaque from others, and it was also a tiny bit patchy from some angles, but looked totally fine from others. So it's a little shape shifty. Also, probably should have mentioned this earlier, but you don't have any brush strokes through that shimmer either. So that is 3 coats of Pixiestick. The next polish is called Poisonberry, and this is described as a lilac filled with purple shimmer and micro hollow glitter. This was also sheer and a little bit uneven on that first coat. It has more of a pearly finish, so there are some minor brush strokes that run through that shimmer. Those did fade away fairly well after it was dry. It built up pretty well for me on the second coat. It was still a tiny bit sheer, but not enough that I felt like I really needed a third coat. It's another one of those ones that looks worse from certain angles, but I felt like it was okay. Once that second coat color was built up really well, you could see those holographic bits a lot better as well. So that is 2 coats of Poisonberry. The next polish is called Flight of the Monarchs, and this is described as an orange polish filled with color shifting orange to amber to pink to purple shimmer. This one is also sheer, but very shimmery and very, very shifty. The formula felt good on this, and it also went on very evenly despite being sheer. This built up pretty well on the second coat, but there was still some nail line showing since you are mostly just relying on the shimmer for opacity. I ended up adding a third coat, which covered almost 100%, not quite, but not enough that I felt like it looked bad at all. You could really only see that nail line from certain angles, again, because of the shimmer. Very cool, very unusual color here. But that is 3 coats of Flight of the Monarchs. The next polish is called Shroomdom, which is described as a red jelly filled with iridescent flakies and hollow glitter. This is a pretty decently opaque red jelly. There was still a little bit of nail line showing for me, but it covered very evenly, and I got a good amount of those flakies out. It covered pretty well for me in 2 coats, but I do have fairly short nails and not a lot of nail line, which was still showing a little bit, so I wanted to add a third just to see what would happen. And that third coat actually really didn't change it that much. So if you have longer nails or a very white nail line, you might still be able to see through this even after 3 coats. The flakies definitely stand out here. You don't lose them completely, but I do feel like they sink into that red jelly a little bit, which could be a look depending on what you're going for. But that is 3 coats of Shroomdom. And of course, anything with flakies, I also have to add matte top coat, so this is what it looks like with a matte top coat. And the next polish is called Weeping Willow, which is described as an emerald green magnetic with reflective glitter. So my biggest complaint with this one is that the magnetic effect was not as strong as I feel like it should be. Mooncat actually sent me an email a few days after I got this collection saying that they were sending me a new bottle of this color because the magnetic effect was not as strong as it should be. And I actually didn't notice any difference between the one that I got originally and the new replacement bottle that they sent me. My other gripe here is that some of the reflective glitters, when they're under that metallic base, don't actually look reflective. They get buried in the base and they have just kind of like a chunky, gritty look to them that even with top coat isn't completely fixed. Other than that, this did cover completely for me in 2 coats. So that is 2 coats of Weeping Willow. And the last polish is called Stumped, and this is described as a brown jelly with iridescent flakies. This is a bit sheer on the first coat, but the flakies stand out really, really nicely. I'm guessing against the base, like the base being a little more contrasting really makes them pop out. I did have to do a little bit more of a dabbing motion, especially here on the second coat. The second coat actually did cover very well for me, but the flakies kind of didn't want to go where I wanted them to, so rather than just a traditional normal swipe down the nail, I kind of did some dabbing and some placement to get them a little bit more evenly distributed, and pulling them a little bit closer to the cuticle line with that dabbing motion helped that second coat cover completely. So that is 2 coats of Stumped, and I had to add matte top coat to this one as well, and I love this with matte top coat. I have 2 favorites. I really like Flight of the Monarchs. This did take a little bit to build up, but once I had it in 3 coats and I had it opaque, the color on this is so cool. The color and the shift are really, really unique here. And then I also really liked Stumped. I like the kind of foresty natural theme that this has, and I feel like I saw it the most in this one. The color shifting flakies contrasted really, really well with that brown base, and it doesn't look quite as brown in the bottle as it did on the nail, and I like it better on the nails. I like being able to see that like really deep brown, and I really, really liked this with matte top coat. So that is the Mooncat Lost in a Folktale collection. Again, I will link the Mooncat website down below where you guys can check those out. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you later. Bye.